Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back. This is episode 33, day 33 in a row. So very excited about this morning, as I'm usually excited, but today it's like I'm extra excited, if that is possible. And I'm really happy to have you all back here with us. Thank you very much for joining us. I can already see, we've got, a lot of people, a lot of viewers, a lot of regulars already on YouTube. And also on LinkedIn, it is climbing. I can just see how many people are online with us or live with us at any point in time. So I can't see exactly who you are. And for that reason, if you can please, when you get here, just in the chat, say hi. Just say good morning, everybody. Today, if you have got questions and things like that, let us know. We will answer them as we go through. Or maybe right at the end, we'll do some questions with Ryan specifically. And so anything that you want to ask or anything that you want to know, you're welcome to post that. I will go through them and relay them to Ryan as we go through. But I think, today is going to be so valuable. Particularly, we've spoken about mindset before. We've spoken about what we should be focusing on. We've spoken about so many things. And I think today is going to bring everything home. You're definitely going to get inspired by the story. There's some interesting things that you may or may not know about Ryan if you do know him. So really looking forward to get into that. But before I do that, let me just say hi to you all. I think that is important, just to say good morning and make sure that everybody feels welcome. So let me just there's so many, and this is the one thing that I love about YouTube over the other platform that I'm using is the fact that, people can engage before the time. And I saw that it's happening more and more and more where people are like half an hour before we start, they're already saying hi and starting to talk to one another. And just, it's just amazing. So good morning, Quibus. You were first online this morning, just after 7:30. I think you sort of said hi, or no, it's 7:15. Wow. And then Barnett and Raymond in Southbroom. Good morning to you guys. Welcome back. Also, Terence Tobin. Terence, thank you very much for joining us again this morning. Really looking forward to sharing with you. And Johan Oosthuizen, Johan, so nice to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us again. Hannery as well in where is it? Vredendal. I always get confused between Vredenburg and Vredendal and all these Vryheid and all these places. Like I rarely leave Gauteng, it seems. Malcolm, welcome. Malcolm Hendricks. Thank you very much for being back again. Mark Bullock as well. Very nice to have you here. Jaco Pinaar, welcome, Maat. Lekker dat jy hier. Shahida, thank you for being here and for everything that you're doing for me to help me get the word out. Thank you so much. Then we've got Kevin. Kevin, welcome back, Kevin. Yay. Ian McMaster, welcome, Ian. Elmine, once again. Elmine, thank you very much for being here as well. And then we've got Jaco van der Merwe. Jaco, welcome back. You've been here once or twice before, so thank you very much for being here. Arun, welcome back. Really looking forward to do this one. And then good morning, Claudia. Welcome. You're going to enjoy this. Razan, good morning to you as well. Thank you very much for being here. You can see we've got so many people saying good morning this morning. Jaco Roots. So I'm just going to run through them quickly if you don't mind. Renee, welcome. Otherwise, poor Ryan, he's got to sit there, drink his coffee, and then don't have anything time to talk to us. So, Gemotso, good morning. Welcome to you as well. Tristan van Skalkwyk, first time I've seen you here, Tristan. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Werner, welkom, Maat. Blij om je zo te zien. En Mark Dimitriadis as well. Welcome, Mark. What is Mark says? Morning, Francois. Second day for me. Lots of catch up. Yeah, but don't stress yourself, Mark. Just take them as you've got time. And Neil Strydom, welcome back, Neil. Thank you. You've been here almost every single day. Trarello, is it? I hope I'm not messing up your name. I'm sorry if I do, but welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Javi, good to see you. Your first time, Javi. Welcome. You will feel very much at home here. We're a great bunch of people that spend time every morning. So you're so welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. As long as you've got coffee. If you don't have coffee, go get some coffee and then you come back. And then Nadia, also welcome. Thank you very much for being here. Ruan and Herman, welcome to you guys as well. All right, so you're already linked in also a lot of people. Chart, Johan Foster, my Martin Berlyn, Hugo Blom, Stefan Hartman. Stefan, lekker om jou weer te sien. Shaal Groenewald, welcome back, Shaal. Slankenani, Mornay, Amanda, John, Peter Lopez, welcome back to you as well. Peter Strydom, Henny Bauer, welcome, Henny. Kobus is on there as well. You know, people are getting good like me. They're in 2 places at once. I like it. Khadziandi, please don't be mad with me if I like, but welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you very much. Salome, Ronnie Els, Dirk Groeneveld, Heymand, Rob Jones, Nick, Mark Lang, Neil Phillips, Johan Marais, Driekus, everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so it's already 6 minutes in just saying hi. Wow, and there's more and more people saying hi. Guys, please, you're welcome to interact in the community with one another. You know, build those relationships, connect with one another. I think that is important. Please, it's not a flea market. We're not here to do selling amongst one another, but we are here to support one another and share ideas and opinions and things like that. And also to get answers to our questions. I think that is most important. So yeah, once you've said hi, please, if you're over on YouTube, you find value from what we do, and this is a community of which you want to be part of, and you're in the financial services industry, or you own a small business, then please do subscribe to our channel. It helps a lot. I didn't check the numbers this morning. I think we're on 270. So yeah, so that'll be great. And then please, if you can like this live stream, and if you're over on LinkedIn also, if you can like or clap hands or show hearts or just, you know, just tell people we here. That'll be great. That'll help me quite a bit. And then also, I'm going to leave this on at the bottom of the screen that you're also able to connect with Ryan. I've got his website and his Twitter handle on there. You can also, I guess, find him on LinkedIn. So yeah, he is on all the platforms. I think he's on Facebook as well, if I'm not mistaken. But he can share that with us as we go through. Oops, I pressed the wrong button. But yeah, so that is sort of the story, and I want to get sort of going, and to get us going, I'm going to share a video first with you to give you some context about who Ryan is, what he's all about, and then we'll get into the details. So yeah, enjoy with us.
You're capable of certain stuff physically until your mind tells you you're capable of more. There's nothing special about me. I wasn't destined to do great things in sport. It was never my dream growing up. I've kind of fallen into it. With swimming, it's very solitary. You're facing down, looking down into the deep ocean. You see stuff down there, and it keeps you alive. I'm an open water swimmer. I've done swims all around the globe now. Obviously, South Africa, Gibraltar, Taiwan, Alaska, Arctic Circle, Siberia, Australia, South America even. I was 31 years old when I did my first swimming challenge, which was Robben Island-to-mainland. And it was only much later in life that I started to test my own abilities, and you know, one thing leads to another. All of a sudden, you're setting world records. What I've also learned through this process is how important team members are, and how important it is to be able to rely on others to help you. Training for the English Channel, it's hugely physical. You've got to get in the ocean, swim when it's flat, swim when it's raining, swim in the dark, swim in the breakers. Don't look for the best water, look for the worst water. Keep your body guessing, because something like the English Channel throws everything at you. When you're out there and you're really, really battling, it becomes very clear what's important in your life. This is definitely not full time for me. I have a business that I run. I have a loving family. The challenges that I do around the world impact my life hugely, because if I can achieve the impossible in the water and in temperatures that are not meant to be possible to swim in, I can achieve great things in all aspects of my life.
Wow. I see one of the comments is goosebump moments. Yes, it is. Definitely. I've watched this video now a couple of times, and every time, it sort of gets me. It's really, really great. Just to get some form of an idea. And just by the way, I know that the video may be choppy, when you're looking at it from because we're streaming it from YouTube back into the live stream and that. So if you want to watch that video, please go to Ryan's YouTube channel. You can just go search for Ryan Stramrood and you'll definitely find it. It'll come up. It says Ryan Stramrood swimming and speaking. That's the video that you want to look at. So go look at that video but at least I know that the sound and the audio was perfect. So if you want to see that video for yourself again and maybe show it to your family, your kids, or anybody like that, then have a look at it. But yeah, guys, and on that note, it's finally time for me to welcome Ryan to the show. Ryan, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us and for choosing to spend your time with us this morning.
Morning to everybody. It's always hard to watch your own promo videos, and you made me do it twice.
I'm so sorry. I have a knack for doing things like that. I don't know. This week has been one of those, Ryan, where I've had technical issues, and we've done 30 episodes without any issues.
Wow.
And this week, I think every day there was something that I did wrong or something that I missed. And I almost bumped over the light here as well. So it's just one of those weeks. But anyway, Ryan, thank you once again. I want to get into extreme adventure swimming. I mean, it sounds quite exciting. It also sounds quite dangerous from my point of view. I have this agreement with the sharks that I don't go into the sea and they don't come into the bar. But we don't, what is this all about? I mean, when you talk adventure, extreme adventure swimming, what is it about?
It's always hard to put a definition on what is extreme adventure swimming. I suppose it's anything that's outside of a swimming pool, which is normal swimming. And for me, it depends what you consider to be extreme, to be honest, Francois. When I started this journey, I certainly didn't set out to become an extreme swimmer. I mean, that would be ridiculous. But eventually, through a series of events, I set trying to swim from Robben Island in Cape Town to Bloberg Beach as a swim, and that was an absolute extreme challenge. That was an Everest for me, in a Speedo in that cold water and trying to do 7.5 kilometers without touching a boat or anything that can help you, was as extreme as it got for me. And now, a couple of years down the line, I've done 108 of those crossings. Wow. In summer, when the sun comes up a bit earlier, I get to the island usually at about 6 a.m. I jump in the water. I get a lift across with a little Zodiac, and I swim to Bloberg Beach. I'm on the beach by 8 a.m. or 8:05. I'm in the office by 9. So what I'm trying to say is that what was extremely extreme for me at one stage is now a really daunting training swim for me. So you put things in perspective. So my extremes have started there and have gone right up to some really silly places around the globe and trying some stuff that I probably shouldn't have, but has sent me on this epic journey.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, and we're going to get into some of that. One question I've got for you as well is how did the cold affect you long term? So obviously there's what's happening while you're in the water, but long term, having done this so many times, is there any effects that you've picked up apart from mindset and those going physically? Is there any impact?
Well, you know what? People close to me might differ, but I say no. I think I'm quite normal and quite sane. But what I've picked up from the cold has been exactly, why I'm sitting in front of you today. The cold, humans have not evolved well at all to handle the cold. We've evolved very well to avoid it. So when you throw yourself into these cold situations, the mind and the body reacts quite profoundly. And through repeating this and getting colder and colder to different challenges I've tried, I've started to understand the mind and how it is designed to protect us and to keep us safe and hold us back rather than catapult us forward. So those are the long-term effects, which I think are positive. I still have all my fingers and toes and other important pieces. And the most common question I get, if you watch my keynote talk, you see some of the stuff I've done around the world and in Antarctica. And I usually get asked, did I produce my son before or after the Antarctic swim? and it was after.
Okay, well done. Eh? So yeah, that should be well done. Do you follow any of Wim Hof's teachings or learnings or courses or anything like that during your preparation or anything like that?
No, I haven't to this point. I'm starting to become more and more interested in. It's actually Wim Hof. I've had the privilege of sharing a glacial lake with him in Iceland once upon a time. So I can't say I know the gentleman, but we've crossed paths in what we do. And you know, where I have been someone who's never really thought this through, and have just pushed myself with a bunch of mates, you know, doing different things that has evolved my story. And the things that I've achieved. I'm a bit of a hacker, to be honest. I've now understand the mind a lot better, but in terms of stuff I've done, where Wim, you know, he developed a method, he developed a way to be able to extend his time longer in the situations, in similar situations, which I've never done. I've just, you know, tried to override a very powerful mindset and default defense mechanism that's trying to get me out, and I've tried to figure out how do I override that and extend my time. So long answer to your question. No, I don't follow Wim Hof's methods, but I give them a lot of respect, and I'm doing a lot more reading up about the man and his methods.
Yes. And that's awesome, because it's quite interesting stuff. I've got a few friends who are sort of into that kind of thing. Yeah, as you say, I choose to stay warm still at this stage, but it is something. Even my wife is very interested into those kind of things, etc. And back to the swimming, Ryan. How did you get into this? If I recall from what I've heard you talk about and what I've read about you, you know, it was a bunch of friends that said, "Come, let's swim, let's do this." But where did this all start for you, and how did you get into it?
Well, I think it's a part of the story that people enjoy, and I think relates quite nicely. Is that I wasn't born to do this. I didn't start this when I was young. I started swimming pretty much when I was 30 years old, just before 30. And I was literally becoming a couch potato, loving the couch and the remote and a bag of chips, and you know, getting fat and unhealthy. And I took a friend away, a client actually, and a friend away on a weekend, a business weekend. And while we were having a beer, I was moaning about, you know, the fact that I'm getting these love handles, and he said, "Well, why don't you join my little swimming squad that I do back in Cape Town?" And I thought, well, why not? I've always enjoyed swimming, so let me give it a try. So I went to his little swimming squad, and with a coach called Gary Freeling, and I managed 20 lengths, which is half a kilometer, and nearly vomited. But something made me stick to it. And I continued to get a little bit fit, and eventually a gentleman called Tony Salmeyer, who I'm still good friends with today, put the challenge, or he handed me a book that he had written, and he said, "Listen, you look like you should set Robben Island swim as a goal." And I remember thinking, oh, don't be ridiculous. You know, that's for the superhumans out there. That's for the athletes. That's definitely not for me. But yet I set it as a goal, and I achieved it not that far after setting it. And that pushed me on this journey. You know, once I started to taste of you know, what I thought was impossible for me and only for people better than me, I started to realize that I've got a little bit more in me than I actually thought. And then through the swimming communities, you meet like-minded people, and a bunch of young guys start egging each other on, and one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden you're in crazy parts of the world making big mistakes, but learning from them.
Yeah, that's usually where it starts. It's some friend of yours is always that's usually where the story like this starts.
It is so true.
So you speak about Robben Island, and what I've been thinking about. So now you've done like 108, and those. So something that I've been pondering last night is, I mean, when you got there for the first time, obviously there's anxiety. I think there would be fear, there would be stress, there would be doubt, there would be all of these things, maybe, and it will be great to hear how you felt before that very first swim from Robben Island to Blouberg. But if you compare that to your latest one, or the last one that you did, 108 swims, you know, when you're there at the start before you jump in the water, were you feeling differently? Were you more confident? Were you more like, this is it, or is there still the same feelings there that you had with that very first swim?
Francois, it's a good question. So certainly on my first Robben Island crossing, I was extremely nervous and, you know, full of doubts. but extremely well prepared and extremely well focused on it. Now, 108 crossings later, what I can tell you, and I don't want to, doing it 108 times, I don't want to belittle the swim at all. It's an extremely difficult swim, and it will kick you in the pants if you show it any disrespect, and it has tried to do that very many times for me. So I do feel different because I'm far more confident. Even though every single one of those 108 swims, one is never like the other. There's always something new that you're going to learn or find in the water, or something that's going to sting you or scare you, or a current that's going to upset you. However, what I say with great confidence, that if I don't, when I usually do the boat ride over to Robben Island, I take a little bit of time just to breathe and to visualize and to remind myself that if I'm too blasé about this, I'm not going to make it. So one of the big sort of personal achievements for me is that I have never failed a Robben Island crossing. So 108 I've done without ever pulling out. I've been pulled out twice when there's been reasons for the support crew to pull me out. It's usually wildlife related. Once it was a thick fog that came in before we had GPS on the boat. And the other was some very overzealous seals, believe it or not. So I wasn't chased out for those of you thinking shark. It wasn't shark, it's actually seals that made me get pulled out. So I feel different because I'm way more confident, but I still do as much thinking and mental prep.
Yeah, and you talk about like you've done this without fail, so you've been successful in all 108. But not all swims go like that, right? I'm pretty sure some of these other places where you've gone, like it's almost like, and I'm not downplaying this, but Robben Island is now like your backyard, But then you do all these other things, and I know that you talk, and I think there's a workshop you do as well about failing forward or something to that degree. What has been your most profound learning from what you think of as your biggest failure? So what was your biggest failure in terms of your swimming from your point of view, and what has been the biggest learnings that you've taken from that?
Great question, Francois. My biggest failure, and I have to think about this, but I think the one where I learned the most, and it was partly because I'd been doing challenges around the world with a group of mates, and I then I wouldn't want to say split from them, but I was invited by a different group of people who have now become mates. At the time, I didn't know them at all. I wanted to try and be the first male to swim from Russia to the USA in the Bering Strait. And I wish if we had lots of time, that's a whole keynote talk on itself. There's so much that came out of that. Firstly, just it's so remote, it's so wild, it's so exciting. I start getting goosebumps just thinking about it. But I had to fly from Cape Town to Joburg, London, New York, Alaska, Nome, Prince of Wales. Then I had to get on a boat to a little remote island in the middle of the Bering Sea. So it gives you an idea of just how remote it was. And what I learned was on that day, on the build up to that, a million things went wrong, and all the signs were there, and I didn't read them particularly well. And I also learned that day a couple of things. One thing is that I still have a lot of work to do in channeling fear in the right direction and not the wrong direction. Because when you're trying to set world firsts and break records or set records, you can't follow the rules necessarily. You have to go against advice. You have to take risks. And up until that point, I'd been taking risks with a bunch of people and maybe following more than leading, and just seeing, well, if he's going to do it, then I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden, here I was in the most remote place in the world. We never got permission to enter Russian waters. Which usually is where you'd stop. So back, 3 months before, we were trying to get the permissions to people don't usually swim into Russia, from America. And I decided, well, I'm going to go anyway. And just, try and, so remote, I'm sure I can make a plan. You throw some cash at the right people in these remote places and you can get things done. And then just before we left, Russia invaded the Ukraine, and there was massive political issues. And the little island in the middle of the Bering Sea that I was trying to swim to in Russian turf is actually a military base. And the bunch of gents that I was swimming with were all in wetsuits where I wanted to do it in my Speedo. The water was researched to be 6 degrees Celsius, which is brutal, and it's a 4-kilometer distance. I'll explain it. I know Russia's more than 4 kilometers away from the USA, but they're 2 little islands smack in the middle of the Bering Sea. And one's in Russian water and one's in the United States water, and there's a 4-kilometer distance between them. So I figured, that if you can swim between those, then you are Russia to USA. Anyway, very long story. I'd love to share the whole thing with you guys. Long story short, a decision was made that instead of going all the way to the Russian island and then swimming back to America, we would just jump in the water close to the island and then swim back. And the support crew that I was with, half of them bailed out because they didn't want to go into Russian waters illegally, and the expedition company that was helping us bailed on us, and we were suddenly down to a few boats. And I lost my nerve to a large degree. I still did the swim. However, I cannot claim that record after getting all the way there because I did not touch the land. You have to exit the one side of the land and yet I jumped into the water. Oh, sorry, it was meant to be 6 degrees and it turned out to be 3 degrees, and that is just brutally painful. So I swam the 3.8 kilometers, which is the GPS distance, but I never touched the land. So I consider that a failure. And yeah, there are actually so many things I took out of that. Fear got the better of me. Support crew were wonderful, but trying to support people in wetsuits and with different goals and trying to support me at the same time. But when you are in that cold water in a Speedo, you are dying very quickly and you need undivided attention, which I didn't have. And, there was a big moment when you swim across the border, across the actual imaginary line that runs between those two islands that separates Russia from America. And it's also the international date line. So, the one island which is 23 hours away from the other. So it's quite a cool thing. You're swimming from yesterday back into today, or from tomorrow back to yesterday, whatever that might be. So yeah. As we crossed that GPS point, the guys in wetsuits who weren't worried about the cold wanted to do photo shoots, and rightly so. And yet being in a Speedo, I would be dead within minutes if I tried that. It was a preparation failure. It was a mindset failure. And it was a failure of channeling fear in the wrong way. So I learned a lot.
Yeah, it's look, I mean, it must be cool to have a bride with you to hear all these stories and things. Do you ever get tired of telling your stories?
No, I don't. No, I don't. Sometimes I fear that I'm getting boring. But every time I stop around that bar and say, guys, can we talk about something else? Everyone says, no, we want to hear how that ended. So I draw on, and Francois, what has really been amazing to me, there aren't just stories. I've developed quite a cool understanding of how the mind works in a certain genre, and how to channel it, and how to train it and overcome certain things. And, I've spent a lot of time thinking about that, and that's put me on many stages around the world now, sharing those learnings. And again, in the early days, I used to think, but what positions me to talk to all these wonderful people, to these people who are way more qualified in business than I'll ever be. And I used to feel a little bit sheepish about that. But a couple of years down the line, not anymore, because I see what people take from it. I see how inspired they are, and I see the learnings, and I've actually seen how that has helped so many people. So it's very hard to get bored, even though, my own voice, I do hear it draining on. I'm sorry, people.
It's like the seagull. But it's amazing. And I think it serves as a good reminder just how powerful our stories can be for other people, and how much they get inspired and how much they learn and say, but wow, if Ryan can do it, then, chances are very good that I can do it. And because that's something that you sort of, you're very clear about this, is that you're an average Joe. You're a normal guy. You didn't, even in the video, I think you said you were like, it's not like you were big into sports or you have any special ability or anything like that.
No.
It is just something that you got into and that you really like, and you are learning a lot from it and sharing it with others, And I think that is what people need to take away from this, is that you don't have some Superman suit, you're just as vulnerable as any of us. You've just learned to control your mind maybe a bit better than most. But on that point, I think... Yeah, sorry, you're welcome.
Sorry, yeah, I just want to say, sorry, hold your point. I just want to, that is such an important thing to me. You know, there are a lot of speakers out there or people who do this who are superhuman. Still, in my mind, I'm not one of those, and yet I've achieved sometimes more or at least equal to many of them. And there's a very powerful message. So when I address people, I try and make that very clear, because once you can really relate and once you believe that I'm nothing other than an average Joe with all the bonds and bills and flaws and failures, I'm a single dad, you know, trying to now homeschool a little 8-year-old, that's a challenge. You know, then people relate better, and then the messages become a little clearer. It's not someone who's up there on this pedestal. It's someone totally who could be sitting in the audience, who's just made a few moves that maybe I wouldn't normally have made, and now I understand things a bit better. Sorry, back to your point.
Yeah, no, that's great. It still leads me on to the next part that I want to ask you about, and that is that, I mean, you do have a business. You do run your own business. A lot of what you do is speaking on stages, going to conferences, not only in South Africa but obviously worldwide. I mean, this situation we're finding ourselves in now, you know, must have had a significant impact on what your calendar looks like at the moment. Can you talk a little bit about that? You know, just to show that you're just like all of us. You know, we're all sitting with the same challenges.
Well, I mean, you've said it. I'm a public speaker, and in March and April, I was booked to do massive conferences in Barcelona, 3 in the UK, and then, you know, back home to Cape Town and then back to the UK. And of course, all of those were cancelled, as like everybody else's. So, as a public speaker who's worked quite hard to gain traction, you know, I'm not a massive brand. I'm not out there like some of my peers. So to gain traction on the international and local speaking circuits is very difficult. And my manager, Jill Atwood, and I have worked very hard to get ourselves to a point, and then to see that all cancelled is absolutely brutal. Not to mention the fact that that's 100% of income flatlined. So if anyone doesn't think I'm impacted by this lockdown and what's happening,
yeah, no, definitely. And Ryan, so I mean, during this time, there's so many things that we can do, and you know, what have you chosen to focus on rather? What are the things that you're keeping your mind busy with right now? Because I think in times like this, if you look at an empty calendar, you look at an empty bank account, or like, you know, invoices that were supposed to go out that can't go out anymore, things like that. You know, what have you chosen to focus on?
Yeah, good question, Francois. And it's been an amazing journey for me, actually, and I don't belittle it at all, because you know, I've still got a lot to figure out. But you know, when this lockdown thing first happened, I was spinning. I was wondering, you know, you're just seeing all these cancellations come through. How am I going to do this? How am I going to pay that? How am I going to support all the people who rely on me in every way, be it financially or other? And I started to spin, I started to doubt, I started to fear. And then things started to dawn on me again that what we are part of here, everyone, you and me and everybody, we are all having an extreme challenge. There's no difference. You know, what is the definition of an extreme? It's fear, it's not knowing an outcome, it's uncertainty. That's everything that I subscribe to. I voluntarily put myself in that position so often. And here I am, yes, we are forced into this position, but it's no different. So how do I take the fear that I'm feeling and channel it differently and channel it in a positive direction? So I've chosen to do that, and it's been an incredible mindset shift. So again, where you have mindset shifts in extreme sport, you have a mindset shift in a negative situation like this, and it all boils down to your attitude. And once you're able to adjust your attitude, to tweak it, to focus it, it makes a world of difference. It doesn't solve all your problems, but it positions you to solve your problems. Whereas humans default when we are uncomfortable, when we have fear, and when there's the unknown, our minds default to self-protect. They look inward. They want to know, how am I going to protect me? Oh, woe is me. I've been forced into this lockdown. And you almost go into a huddle, so to speak, where what we require now is an outward look. So I look at some of my extreme challenges, and the one thing that holds constant through them all, there's always fear and all of those usual things. But in every single swim and challenge I've done around the world, at some point, well, not some point, in fact, the whole time during, I am wishing it would be over. I am doubting myself. The cold makes you negative. I'm starting to look for excuses why I should fail rather than why I should succeed, because failure means I'll get into the support boat alongside and get a nice warm towel around me. I start believing it's never going to end. There are always moments when you think the shore is just too far away. I can't do this. I'm so uncomfortable. I'm so cold. It's so rough. There are so many things stinging me. There are curveballs. I didn't predict this current. I didn't know that those blue bottles would be there. It's a lot colder than we thought. So all those things come into my head, and I doubt myself and doubt myself and doubt myself. But if you've got a very strong support team, and in my case, quite a lot of experience, thankfully, I know one thing for sure, and that is when I make it to the shore, because I will make it to the shore, and I get a towel wrapped around me and I go into a nice heated room and I thaw out, within minutes, all the pain, all the discomfort, all the negative gets sent to the abyss, and all you remember is the learnings that you took from out there, the learnings about yourself. You take the positives away. So we are all in this extreme challenge together, and I promise you, when this lockdown is finished, within probably a day, we'll all look back and we won't believe we've all been cooped up for a month or 5 weeks, whatever. What is it? 4 weeks of actual lockdown so far.
5 now.
We won't believe that we've been through it, and we will take away the learnings, and we will have a new plateau on which to build using the new building blocks we found in this lockdown period.
Yeah, no, there's so much gold in what you just shared, Ryan. I want to ask you sort of, what is of all of your swims, which of those swims maybe can you like most compare to the situation that we're finding ourselves in? And if you're able to do that, can you talk us through like everything around that particular swim, from the preparation right through to the end kind of thing, within 5 minutes? I've got 5 minutes, but I mean, can you talk us through that sort of, which one it was and what was the process for that and what you learned from it?
Sure, Francois, I'd actually take two of my swims in the completely different genres. One is the English Channel, which took, when you swim in your Speedo from Dover in the UK all the way across to France. I swam 41 kilometers that day. It took me 13 hours, and it was absolutely brutal. And of course, during those 13 hours, when you're 2 hours into the swim, your body's already saying, that this is enough. I mean, there's no way you can do the rest of it. You can't even see the outline of France yet. So the mind starts playing those tricks, but you chip away and you break it up into bite-sized chunks. And you just swim to what swimmers say to your next feed. You usually break it up into half an hour. So we get someone throws a juice bottle at you every half an hour and you take a drink or what the case may be. So I use that because as you break it up into small chunks, you can compute those small chunks a lot easier than you can trying to swim to France in my case. Then on the other side, I'd go to an extreme cold challenge. Maybe I should share a little video with you, Francois, where we were in Siberia, took on a challenge, and by mistake ended up at this extreme. I say by mistake, we didn't do enough homework, and I arrived in this extreme place and walked smack into thinking I was just partaking in a normal challenge, an ice water challenge, and I didn't realize that I was going to walk. The swimming pools were cut teeth of minus 33 degrees Celsius, where you actually cannot compute that level of cold. And I equate that a lot to, all of a sudden we are thrown into a lockdown situation, which we don't understand. Oh, yes, sorry. I was just, that was one of the most unprepared I've ever been for something that was the most extreme thing I've ever been part of, if that makes sense. The fascinating 24-hour mental journey that I went on that day, arriving at those pools, experiencing a minus 33 degree temperature, where I was way too scared to take off one of the 2 pairs of gloves I had on each hand, beanies, and absolutely huddled up. And you arrive there and you've set a mission for yourself to try and swim a mile in that little pool that you might have just seen them cutting out. And 24 hours, I mean, it was absolutely impossible for me. The certainty of death was an overriding fear and an overriding emotion. Yet 24 hours later, through a process of let's just say a process of trying to figure it out and not lose too much face with my new Russian friends, I ended up giving it an attempt. And although we didn't do a mile, we did 1 kilometer, 40 laps, and we all succeeded. And I tell the story because we were thrown into this. We did not do enough preparation for lockdown and the situation we're all in now. None of us have been able to prepare. We all have to figure it out in a very short space of time to make it work. And the one thing I take the most out of that Siberia challenge, I succeeded against a background of 24 hours earlier being 100% convinced I would fail and I would probably die. Yet I made it. We made a little bit of history. People, certainly ourselves. And I think that's what I take out of that. I'm applying to the situation I'm in right now. I'm in a Siberia or in Antarctica right now. And, we've got to change the mindset because we can make some success out of this. I don't belittle it. It's going to be hard and the playing fields are going to be difficult. But if you've got the right attitude and the right belief, we will all move forward probably a lot better than ever before.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it's a lot about, do you choose to focus on the things that you should be doing right now or that you could be doing right now, or focusing on what you are not able to do? I think that makes a huge difference. It's quite interesting to me, like these, what did you call them? Like every 30 minutes when they throw you like a juice box or something, what do you call that?
Your feed.
Your feed. Okay. So, but that's quite interesting because I think there's a couple of things there that I'm taking from that. And that is, well, one, obviously you need to replenish and keep up your energy and things. But also, it is like small little goals. Every time you go there, I've made another one. Yeah. I've made another one. I've made it. You're not. You've got the land where you need to get to in your mind, but it's these like just the next feed. It's just the next feed. Yeah. Just the next feed. Is that what it's like?
Exactly. It's bite-sized chunks. I remember some advice that my late mom gave me just before I went, and she just said, just remember that every stroke you take, every pull in that water, is one stroke closer to France. So it's a positive and another positive and another positive. And then, obviously I've done a lot of training, but the other piece of advice, which was useful was bite, you bite-sized chunks, like eating an elephant. You can't do it all in one mouthful. You eat it little by little. Sorry for that analogy to the animal lovers, but kind of made sense to me back then. Yes. And I think all of this, the smaller you make smaller goals. Daily goals in this lockdown. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to learn? What can you learn? Firstly, and that's how I'm trying to do it all.
Yeah, and you've mentioned fear quite a number of times during this talk, but there's always fear, specifically when you're doing something for the first time. But I mean, there's something that happened to you about 2.5 years ago. That's the kind of fear that one could not prepare for, and that one maybe didn't even cross your mind, possibly. But you were part of an armed robbery, or you were, I don't know how to put this properly, but I mean, you found yourself going out early in the morning. I think you were on your way to go and exercise, and then you got these 3 guys who just, jumped you in your complex where you lived. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what went through your mind and how are you dealing with that?
With pleasure. That was everybody's nightmare. I was going to do a 20-kilometer training swim in a swimming pool, which is a world of fun. And I was starting really early in the morning, so I was busy. It was pitch dark. It was in July, I think. So it was dark at like 5:30 in the morning, and I was busy putting cooler boxes and things in my car with all my feeds. And I turned around to walk back into my unit within this complex. And there were 3 guys on me, one with a gun on my head, and another one put a knife in my side. And you have that moment of intense fear, that adrenaline rush. Now, up until this point, obviously, I've been wondering, how will I handle such a situation? Will I try to be a hero? Will I fight my way out of it? Or will I just be mature about it and do the right thing? And firstly, they robbed me of my watch and my wallets, and they took everything out of my car. And I thought, well, that's fine. Just let them take it, and then they'll be on their way. And of course, that didn't end there. They then took me back to my unit, took my keys, deactivated my alarm, unlocked my door, took me inside, and relocked the door with me on the inside. And that was quite an intense fear. And I just remember being very much in the moment and very controlled. And, they didn't believe me that I lived alone. And as I got in, just naturally, I needed to cough. So I coughed, and they thought I was trying to wake someone up. So they piled in me and plummeted me to the ground. And, eventually they searched the house and realized I was alone. And yeah, I don't want to go into the depths and details, but they tied me up and blindfolded me and gagged me. And one kept the gun on my head the whole time while the others ransacked the house and took everything they want. And before they gagged me, and this is probably the reason they gagged me, I was just talking to them the whole time, just calmly, just saying, look, take what you want, do whatever. I said, but just leave my phone. Don't take the phone. It's got tracking devices. You guys will get caught in minutes. Leave the phone. And that's when they gagged me. And they had tied my hands together using my shoelaces, and that cut all the blood off. They tied it so tight. But anyway, eventually they left. It was quite scary lying on my bedroom floor, with my feet and hands and eyes blindfolded and mouth not gagged. And eventually I heard them leave. And once I got the blindfold off, and I could see that actually left my forehead, so they bought that little bit of negotiation, and I could, through my tied hands, make calls and get the help I needed. But that was an intense amount of fear. I couldn't compute it any other way than what can I learn from it. I was due to go and do that big training session, and I had a mate who I was meant to meet, and he was wondering why I was so late. And eventually I phoned him. He came and fetched me, and he said, you know what, you've probably got a whole bunch of anger and adrenaline. And we got the boats and all the necessary permissions that you need. And he took me out to Robben Island, and I swam to Blogo Beach and got my personal best time ever, just channeling that anger into something positive. So that's how I handle it. And, I think I did it okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think what struck me in that article specifically is that, you intentionally and on purpose decided that you're going to focus on, what did I learn from this? What is still good about it? Let me focus on the positive side of things, not ignoring what has happened. I think you've got to deal with what has happened. You can't just say it didn't happen, because it did.
Yeah.
But, from that point is that you intentionally chose, because you have that power. And that's the thing that we must remember, is that we have the power to decide what we focus on. It is absolutely a decision. It is not just a thing you choose, but it may be hard for some people to do that. So how do you?
It's a very difficult thing to do. Yeah. So I cut you off. You're quite right.
No. Yeah. So one thing that I do want to ask you is, then on that same theme is how can we, and the audience are primarily financial advisors, financial professionals, maybe small business owners and entrepreneurs and so on. What can we do every single day to work on our mindset? Because it's not like just making a decision, I'm going to have a strong mind now. Surely this is doing things over and over and over again in little bits at a time. Sort of in my mind is how I think about it. But is there any sort of, I don't want to call them tips and tricks, but advice that you can give around how can you work on your mindset constantly? Because it's a constant thing. It's not an exercise and then you're done.
No, I think the best advice that I can give to that question, Francois, is to almost take a step back, is to try work on understanding the mind. So read the books, listen to people who have maybe put themselves in extreme situations and learnt a little bit out of the ordinary. You have a deeper understanding. Because once you understand that the human mind is the gateway to absolute greatness, without a doubt, we all agree on that. But once you understand that this gateway to greatness that lives in all our minds is safe, it's designed to hold you back. And that's not just safe from swimming in crazy cold water, for example, or walking off a cliff or walking into a fire. It's designed to keep you safe from the emotional pain that comes from failure. And that's more the subconscious side. So when there is an unknown outcome, you're going to try something new, but you don't know how it's going to turn out. As humans, by default, we decide not to try because it's much easier to deliver where we are comfortable. It might be nice, steady performance. We'll get the paycheck, we'll make the targets, or we'll pay the bills. But if we had tried something new, we might be doing a lot better and we might have failed, but one guarantees that you will definitely have learned. So where I'm going with this is, once you understand this process that happens at the back of your head, most of the time subconsciously, you can start to understand different decisions that you make, especially in this period now, and try and identify slowly, day by day, just one a day, where you have made a decision out of fear, out of the unknown, out of an outcome that you can't control. And eventually, once you've done that many times, you start to get better at it, and you start to realize that the default setting of the mind is self-protect. And once you eventually get to a point where you can flick a switch, takes you out of the self-protect way of looking at your world, at your business, at your life, at your family, into what I call self-explore, where you look far more outward. And you bring in stuff to help you that you wouldn't have before, and you focus fear, and you channel fear differently, away from self-doubt and more into something where you can achieve. And you also have to accept the fact and understand there are different levels of failure. Failure could mean devastating effects, so you got to be careful what you do. But failure is learning. You cannot learn if you don't fail. If you stop trying new stuff, you cannot grow. Because when you stop learning, you're going to get pushed over. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that's why I do the failing forward. You have to share your failures, which I do openly, because they've taught me way more than my successes. I hope that answers some of the question.
Wow, no, that's amazing advice. If only did that for 5 minutes this morning, then I think, that is pure gold. Thank you so much, Ryan, for sharing that. And I mean, what is next for Ryan? I mean, you've done so much. Is there still some challenges in the pipeline? Your business, everything.
Yeah.
Like, what's next for you?
Well, obviously to regrow the business, and do a little rain dance and hope that some of those conferences I was booked for rebook, and that all of you watching who can book eventually give me a call and see the full keynote. But in terms of challenges, Francois, it's an interesting one, because I was fully trained and ready for two big extreme challenges, which are now obviously null and void, because I can't train where I am, and obviously we can't do the expeditions. But I was taking myself completely out of my comfort zone. I got a call to join a team who were going to try and do a world first row in the Arctic across 12 days. Now, I've never even sat in a rowing boat, and it would be absolutely brutal. And they wanted me on the team. I think they had all the expertise, but they needed the stupid, and they looked me up. So I was training quite hard to take on a very, very extreme row up in the Northern Hemisphere. But I've obviously, that's going to be delayed till next year if I do redo it. So at this, as I sit there now, I don't be rebooting a few of the old ones, I think.
Yeah, awesome. I watched you. I was part of a hangout about a week ago, and there was some speak about a long coming written thing, so which is a book, which you
Yes.
said, it might be time. So yeah, if that ever happens, I mean, I think people will definitely look forward to that as well, Ryan. So I want to get into some of the comments and the questions quickly. I'm just going to run through LinkedIn quickly, so I can't see the LinkedIn comments here, so I have to look on my phone. Let me just see quickly. There's a question here from Nick, and count on Nick to ask questions like this. So he's asking, did you inspire Faf with his SA flag Speedo, or the other way around? So who inspired who?
Well, I was definitely first. So
Yes.
I'm going to claim that glory. When I walk into the gym after that in my South African Speedo, and everyone's like, oh, you're following Faf. I'm like, no.
No.
But he might have made it famous, wasn't me.
Yes, yeah, he got it. Yeah, so it helps if you have a prince in the picture, it seems.
Yeah,
so
sure.
he had an unfair advantage. Neil Phillips is asking a question for Ryan: how do you transfer your focus and concentration from your swims to your business? do you find it easier, in quotes, to push yourself physically and mentally during exercise than mentally at work, which isn't as physical?
Sure, it's an interesting question. I take what I've put into my business. So much of my success and growth in business has been thanks to my swimming, and just from some of the little lessons I've shared or points I've shared with you guys this morning. Before my small advertising business that I also run. I'm a small team, and we compete against some massive players. And in the past, in the early days, I would see an way too small, and that needs a much bigger, more experienced team. That used to be my mindset. That's changed completely, and that is now, what, I'm going to go balls to the wall and I'm going to fight for that account, and I'll probably fail, but sometimes I win and sometimes I lose, but I always learn. So look, I do find the mental stuff in the water where a lot easier, because the problems that you face are very real and there, and you're trying to survive the cold and avoid whatever you don't want to get bitten by or stung by. And the distance is just you've got to compute all of that. In business, it's not always as clear as that, so it's a little trickier, but the concepts are exactly the same.
Great. Then there's a question from Quibus Klein. So Quibus is asking, Ryan, so you did 108 Robben Island swims or crossings, so that it made you equal the record. When are you going to break the record? When is the next one? Are you planning to do that?
I will, yeah. So there's a great friend of mine who unfortunately passed away recently, Theo Yach. He did the most Robben Island crossings ever, and he did 108. And I have now equaled his record. And yeah, it's never been my mission to take that off him, but records were made to be broken. So I was ready to do my 109th Robben Island crossing and take that small little bit of glory in my own world. And then I got locked down. So it'll definitely happen. And thanks for the question. Yeah, it's due. It's going to happen. So let's say that's my next challenge.
Cool. Frederick Meyer is not asking a question. He's more making a statement. He says there's a lot of principles you are talking about that we can apply in our own environment. So he's also a financial planner and businesses for the type of success you are talking about, Ryan. Let's go and add value and break barriers. So that's great.
100%, Frederick.
Yes.
I like that.
Let me just see quickly. Then Bongi says, she said that the 30-minute chunks is so profound. I also found that, that wasn't part of my prep. It was just like, as you said it, I was just like, but this means so much. And the same that she's saying. So she's been taking it one day at a time, did something daily, and have done things I've set aside for the past few years. And I want to add on to that as well, is like in this last 33 days that I've done this show live every single day, I've realized the power of doing a little bit every single day, but doing it consistently. Because the amount of content we've created, the community we've built, and it feels like I started a week ago. It is amazing how quickly time goes.
Well done to you, Francois, and thanks for that question, or the Bongi, that statement. I'm really glad, because at least
yes.
It's absolutely so simple, but it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Sometimes it's simple things that makes the biggest impact. And then she just says sorry about the robbery, and she's glad that you're okay and can still do amazing things. So that's awesome. Let me see. I have one last look at this. There's a lot of positive comments on YouTube and on LinkedIn, and saying thank you. And it was such an inspirational interview, and it's great to hear your story and everything. So you're welcome afterwards, Ryan, to go look at the comments in the recording. So it'll be hard to see them on YouTube, because you've got to go into the video. But on LinkedIn, you're able to scroll through the comments. And if you want to interact there and answer people, you're more than welcome to do that.
Absolutely.
Let me just quickly see some last things here. Manny Bauer says, another great talk. Carol Lindsay says, I made an authentic life decision about a year ago and took myself out of my comfort zone. Up to now, I know I have not failed. I have learned through this process and come out stronger. Ryan, your words have spoken to me. Thank you, she says.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carol.
These people are making
so awesome
me,
to hear.
Yeah, they're making me emotional. So Shaul says... Sorry, man. Shaul says, I'd love to know if there is a mental process Ryan would follow in order to recover from disappointments, failures, hurdles, such as the COVID-19 lockdown. That's a great question.
Sure, a mental process. No, I wish I was that organized and in touch. I'm not sure how to answer that. No, there's not a. It's not for me. It's not a mental process. The work that I'm doing on myself is attitude. Is what I've learned. When I'm standing on any shore before a big challenge, if you have a negative attitude, you must have fear. You must have that anxiety that actually is a positive. That's how you channel it. But if your attitude is bad, if you don't really want it, if you don't think your support team's going to help, if you're just negative towards it, it sends you in the wrong direction. So my attitude is not woe is me. I have no income. How am I going to figure this out? It's I will figure it out. Something will happen. And it won't just happen. I can't sit back. I've got to go figure it out. Put yourself that quite often, in my line of work, you would charge for. Now you don't. I certainly don't, because I'm helping people, and that feels good, and that is the paid for it. So my attitude is in the right place, and I still have some work to do because it's hard to keep it in the right place. We all know that a lot comes along each day to dumb us down. Hope that answers it a little bit. I wish I was as scientific and had an A, B, and C to share with you, but I don't.
But I think it's so important, Ryan. It's like a process helps us get going, and maybe to sort of, because people don't know where to start, but it also goes to show that there is no magic process always. There isn't no magic bullet or whatever. It's sometimes just sitting and thinking and just becoming aware of what you are focusing on, and is it good for you or not? And then what are other things? I mean, I think that's a simple place to sort of start. I think the challenge comes in with pushing through, because it's much easier, as you say, the mind wants to protect you, so it wants to hold you back. Actually, it's to sort of keep going so that you can push through that and believing that you can get through that, definitely. Then our last question I want to share is from Tristan. Tristan is asking, when and how did you realize that you have reached that point in your mind that you just have to keep going? And what is your first step in your mind in overcoming that fear, having reached it a few times? And again, people like the process thing.
I heard. How to answer that again? With trying to keep it short, I've got very long answers on that. I think that's my next challenge, is try to make these things more concise. But what I've learned over and over and over again is in every challenge, and I mentioned earlier, but something I want to add is that you get an uphill and then you get the downhill in swimming, and obviously the halfway mark is when you start going downhill. And in fact, let me just change tune slightly. So what I do quite often now, instead of swimming just to Robben Island, I swim to Robben Island and back. And what I've noticed through that process, so literally you get there, you turn around and you swim back. There's no waiting, there's no stopping, there's no resting. When I swim a single Robben Island, so from one side to the other, I have all the emotions. By the time I'm 1 or 2 kilometers from the beach, all I want to do is get on that beach. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm battling to contain those negative thoughts. But when I do a double, I simply reprogram my mind and say, right, Ryan, you are doing a double crossing. You are not allowed one negative thought until you have turned around and you're at least halfway back. Okay, and it's an absolute rule. It's my own little mental games. And as soon as you've got a double Robben Island to do, there and back, the single is so easy. You're there before you know it, and you turn around because your mind is geared for a much, much bigger goal. And there's so many messages that lie in that. If we all just waiting for the end of lockdown, it's going to take forever. Focus further in the future, and then this will pass so quickly. And again, it's a decision that you make. It's easy for me to get negative. I'm no different to any one of you. Things are difficult in a lot of spheres, but it's just attitude. Let me just reread that question. First step, one, overcoming that fear, having reached it a few times. Yeah. So one other thing that I've done, for example, I was part of a relay team trying to swim from mainland Russia across to America. So different to the story I told earlier, 134 kilometers in brutal water. And we swim right through the staring down in this icy clear water. And, it's can be petrifying. And so often that fear, you start to feel that anxiety, and it wants to overcome you. And then all of a sudden you spot something down below you looking back up at you. And that's almost enough to send me over the edge. But instead of looking away and pretending it's not there and letting that fear get hold of me, I actually focus on it. I take a deep breath and I look down, and whatever's looking at me or I think is looking at me, I look it back in the eyes. And that's just something that started happening spontaneously for me. And I realized that it's actually a coping mechanism. So to answer your question, Tristan, accept it. And I understand the emotion of fear. And I don't try and run from the fear. I face it and I deal with it and I try and channel it. I hope that it's not that easy, but start your own journey on how to do that. And maybe it'll work for you too.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. I think that was again, it's just about just start doing it. Don't worry. I think we're too worried also about that we're going to do something wrong, but unless we start doing it and practicing, because we can read all the books in the world, we can watch all the videos in the world, we can listen to Ryan 100 times until you take action and you actually start trying these things in your own life and sort of, working your mind so that you are more aware of certain things. Until that time, it's not really going to manifest in your own life. So it's getting guidance from people like Ryan and all the books and all the things around us, but it's then just start doing some of these things. Just try and figure out what works for you, because what works for you may not work for me, and what works for me might not work for Ryan, etc. So it's very unique from that point of view. So Ryan, all I can say is thank you. I just want to switch this off quickly here. So thank you very, very much for being here with us, spending so much time with me. We've gone 15 minutes over. I'm sorry. So let's just blame that I made some technical mistakes. But thank you very much for everything that you shared with us so graciously. I really, really appreciate it. I hope that people will get in touch with you as well. We did say, and I'll put it on again, is that people can connect with you via your website. So it's got a fantastic website. It's so, when I spent quite a long time, not just because I'm interviewing you today, it was such a, so you get to so many websites that are just not nice to look at and read through and find things, but yours is really fantastic. So I really want to invite people to go visit your website, Ryan Stramrood, I hope I'm saying your surname correctly.com. And 100%. Then, and also connect with him on LinkedIn, Twitter, it's @Strammy. I know you're also on Facebook. So you can just go, I mean, as I said, like I've never Googled someone and got so many results related to that one person than with Ryan. So to find him, there's no excuse. Good. It's easy to find him. So thank you very much, Ryan. I really appreciate you and what you've done for us this morning.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you to you for this initiative and for helping so many people through what you're doing. And it's work. I don't think everyone realizes what you got to do in the preparation you've got to do before, a daily video like this, and then you got to read up about some ice swim. Man, it's tough out there. But just thank you to you guys and your profession, and just one special shout out to a gentleman who asked a question earlier, Cobus Klein, because he's also been one of my role models. He spotted me in a talk a couple of years ago, and we connected. And just seeing Cobus's passion for his profession. It taught me a lot. It really did. And also, watching Cobus is really the top of his game. Pay things forward. Also taught me a few things. How where you can help, where you can share, where you can give back. All comes back to you eventually. And I value that hugely. So thank you, and thanks to you again, Francois.
Yes, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best, and we'll connect later on. And thank you very much, Ryan. I will see you somewhere on a stage, hopefully. I'm looking forward to hearing one of your keynotes. Cheers.
Cool. Good luck to everybody out there. Thank you so much, guys.